Yo, welcome back to the channel, boys and girls. In today's video, we are taking a look at the latest flagship Nova 55 wheels from Nepest. And in this video, we're going to be discussing briefly just who Nepest is, the specs on these Nova 55 wheels, of course, the price. We're going to get these bad boys weighed out, and then I'm going to give you some of my first initial thoughts on these wheels. Now, just a couple of things before we get started. Nepest, they did send me out these wheels for testing and review, and I do have a limited 12% off code, which I'll link somewhere either in this video or in the description down below. And the second thing I want to mention is Nepest, they will be at Eurobike 2025 this year. So if you happen to be there at the convention, make sure you stop by their booth in order to check out these new Nova Ride wheels before you make your purchase. So without further ado, let's begin. So first and foremost, who is Nepest? So Nepest is a Chinese brand and they've been around for at least a few years. I couldn't find anything specific on their website, but I know they've been around for at least the last 2 to 3 years. In fact, I actually featured their previous flagship Maui wheels on my channel about a year and a half ago or so. In fact, those Maui wheels were some of the lightest wheels I had ever featured at the time. And some of the notable features on those Maui wheels is they were very well built. And Nepest's focus, they always have been on quality and customer experience rather than just trying to reinvent the wheel. No pun intended. Now, from what I've been able to research on my own, Nepest is very, very popular in Japan. So essentially, they're just looking to expand their brand within the very competitive markets across the globe. Now, moving on to the specs. So as I mentioned in the intro, guys, these are the Nova 55 wheels. 55 essentially denotes that these are 55 millimeters in depth, both front and rear. Although on the website, you can spec out different depths depending on your particular riding style. If you are, for example, a lighter rider, or maybe you want a lighter set of climbing wheels, then you are able to select more shallow depth wheels of these Nova wheels. The internal width on these is 23 millimeters. The external width is 30 millimeters, which stretches out a set of 28C Continental GP5000s to about 30 millimeters at the rim. At this point, a lot of the other brands have moved to a little bit more wider rims. So I would like to have seen maybe a 24 millimeters internal and maybe like a 31 or 32 millimeters external. But nonetheless, this is what you get from Nepest. Now, moving on to the spokes. Now they are using carbon bladed spokes, as you can see. They're 3.2 millimeters wide and they come from the manufacturer Vonoa. I think in the past I called them Vonda, but it's spelled V-O-N-O-A. Now this particular carbon bladed spoke is a very popular design and brand, pretty much being used across all of the modern or Generation 3 line of carbon bladed spoke wheels from the Far East. However, the difference here with Nepest, something that I really appreciate, is rather than deciding to use alloy nipples, they actually are using T-type nipples, meaning they're titanium. Now, this is a premium feature, and this is something that I have not seen, basically these titanium nipples. I haven't seen these since I did my feature on those Goosen polymer braided spoked wheels. So really nice job, Nepest, for offering up titanium nipples. It's a premium feature, and it's just something that you don't see every day on just a standard set of Chinese wheels. Now, going with titanium mean that they should be a little bit stronger as well as non-corrosive. And then, of course, you also get ceramic bearings as well as a 36-tooth star ratchet hub design. And of course, you can always upgrade for the 54-tooth star ratchet as well. Now, I also want to talk about briefly just the hubs. So when you look at the hubs at first glance and how these spokes are laced, on the paper or on the surface, it will look like the spokes are using the side entry method for lacing, something that I've kind of criticized a little bit in the past. However, according to Nepest and on the website, Nepest says that they've actually developed a patented anti-detachment design, basically preventing the spokes from detensioning and subsequently sliding off the wheels, say like in a crash or a hard impact. So these just aren't some run-of-the-mill hubs from like your usual parts bin from China. It's clear that Nepest has thought about this design, and so there's not going to be any worries about these spokes detensioning and coming off of the hub, something that maybe you would have seen in a set of wheels from like 3 to 4 years ago. Don't worry, Valiant Abello. I will not be singing any songs in this video. I promise you, boo-boo. Let's go ahead and get these Nepest Nova 55 wheels weighed out. But before we do, huge shout out to Jermaine Jackson with the LP. Let's get serious. Now, I know what you're asking yourself. Why the heck am I featuring a Jermaine freaking Jackson LP? Well, the answer is simple. Nepest is sort of like Jermaine Jackson. Jermaine Jackson wasn't exactly the most popular of the Jackson 5, but that doesn't mean he didn't possess talent. And that's similar to Nepest. Nepest isn't exactly the most popular Far East wheel brand on the market today. However, that doesn't mean that Nepest does not possess value as well as quality. So let's go ahead and get these weighed out. Just to recap really quickly, we have 55 millimeters both front and rear. We have 23 millimeters internal, 30 millimeters external, DT Swiss style ratchet hub, Shimano free hub, carbon bladed spokes, all the usual fare. And one thing I do want to note is tubeless rim tape has not been installed. So keep that in mind, all right? Okay, so for the rear wheel, we have 703 grams, 703 grams. And then for the front wheel, also 55 millimeters deep, we have 613 grams, 613 grams, which gives us a grand total of 1,316 grams. Pretty respectable for a set of 55 millimeter deep wheels. Let's continue. Now moving on, let's talk about price. So this is where it's going to get interesting. So the price on these, or the retail, is $1,499 USD, basically $1,500 before my 12% off promo code, which should bring these down to about $1,300, $1,320 USD. Right now, we're living in basically a Chinese wheel utopia. There's just so many great wheels on the market. Basically, any sort of wheels you buy from China, they're going to be good. At very best, they're going to be pretty good. But for the most part, all the wheels that I feature on my channel are really, really good. Yet, it's nice to see Nepest try to separate themselves from the average set of Chinese wheels, which is why they include things like wheel bags for each wheels, spare parts. All these things are a huge positive in my book. But ultimately, this is going to be something that the customer themselves will have to decide whether or not they value. But really, all of this sort of value, fit and finish, etc., all of that is reflected in the price. And so again, Nepest is not trying to reinvent the wheel. They're not trying to be your run-of-the-mill Chinese wheel supplier. They're trying to provide all these little and small things, which is why the price is set what it is. Now, just for comparison's sake, I have an older set of wheels from Nepest. These are their Nepest Maui 45 wheels. I've actually featured these wheels on my channel about a year and a half ago. Some of the specs on these compared to these Nepest Nova 55 wheels is we have a rim depth of 45 millimeters, both front and rear. The internal width on these wheels is 21 millimeters. The external width is 28 millimeters. Some of the other things that these wheels have is they use the same dimensions or specs of carbon bladed spokes as the more modern version of these wheels do. Some of the other differences I noticed too right away is you can see that the nipple is exposed versus the more modern Nepest Nova wheels. The nipples is hidden inside of the rim, which should offer up just a marginal more aerodynamic benefits. Who knows? I would actually have to test that. Now you can also notice the finish on both of these wheels is essentially the same. It's sort of this either this paintless or satin finish. It's a really nice touch. Out on the road, these Nepest Nova 55 wheels feel really, really good. There's nothing really offensive to report at all. In my opinion, 55 millimeters is a great all-around depth for most people as a primary set of wheels. They're stiff, they're easy to accelerate, and they feel very well made. At this point, I have featured so many wheels on this channel that we really don't need to spend too much time discussing the ride feel unless there are some glaring problems with the wheels, which there are none at all. Just the overall experience with these wheels is very, very well balanced. And I would say they feel similar to something like the modern Far Sports wheels, also a set of wheels that I have featured on this channel in the past. I think the biggest hurdle for viewers on my channel who specifically come to this channel is going to be both the lack of brand recognition so far and the price. Things that Nepest are trying to slowly evolve and fix over time. All right, guys, so as I was filming this video on my Polygon Stratos, as well as these Nepest Nova 55 wheels, this tree you see right here literally fell onto this path / driveway like 15 minutes ago. I literally was just over here and I came back and it's now on the ground. Think about the people, like pedestrians, cyclists, that could be injured if this fell on them. And then out in the distance, there's one car parked where I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know how they're gonna get out of here. Who knows how quickly the city is gonna resolve this, but this is insane, crazy. How will Nepest compete with the likes of Elite wheels or Machine wheels at a slightly higher price point? Now, I do give Nepest kudos for offering up specs that are a little bit different than those particular brands. Things like the titanium spoke nipples, the patented hub, the wheel bags, the spare spokes, etc. Really, only the consumer can decide if these aspects are worth spending a premium over the competition. But all in all, these wheels are really good. They're very well made. The riding experience is very predictable, and I don't really have anything negative to say about these wheels. They're just gonna have to continue to just spread their brand recognition. Like I said, they're very popular in Japan, so it's clear there is a lot of value to be had here that people on that side of the world see in Nepest. But I'm gonna leave the video at that for now, guys. Stay tuned later in the season as I will continue to put these wheels through their paces. Huge thank you to Nepest for sending me out these wheels. Questions, comments, and concerns, please feel free to leave them down below, and I'm gonna check you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.